Hey guys, what's up? Hey, welcome back. It's me, the guy doing all the podcast and all the crazy stuff on this channel that is rapidly growing. So, thank you guys so much for that. But, life has been crazy the past month. I moved into my own place where you see here. The reason I'm making this video, this sort of vlog, is because I want to talk about why that's the angle. The podcast, the in-person podcast, is now going to be Zoom based exclusively. Only podcast on Zoom. And I know this might sound crazy, some of you guys, but let me explain.
Coronavirus!
All right, so there's a couple key reasons, very important reasons of why I'm deciding to take an in-person based podcast exclusively on Zoom. And there's many places to start, but just real quick, I don't think any of you guys probably can even think about this, but when I first started the podcast, it was just audio only. It was just me talking into my phone and doing these kind of one person monologue voice memos about stuff that I was learning in the photography world. Eventually that evolved into me talking to different photographers. It's kind of boring talking to only photographers. Let me talk to artists and creatives. And since then, this podcast has always been about talking to different artists and different creatives in their fields. And that can apply to so many things. But I also realized that there wasn't a podcast doing that. And so, that has kind of become the goal, is to talk to a wide range of artists and creative people. How many times can I say that? What started off as me doing it in my car, then doing it in my photography studio, turned into me doing the podcast at this place called OMDC. OMDC is an art gallery that my buddy owns, and he lets me use it once a week to record my podcast and basically use it for the whole day and bring guests in. And that's great. But the problem with that is that in itself leads to choke points. And my goal is to grow this podcast and reach and access as many people as possible. Not just for my own greedy, clout-chasing, brand growing, media growth goals, but also because I actually feel like this podcast impacts people and provides immense value to people's life. I've gotten DMs, my guests have gotten DMs about how something they said during our interview or during our conversation has changed their life or given them a new perspective or just been entertaining. And that alone makes it worth it, because I already love talking to people and people I find fascinating, but when everyone else can sort of get some value from that, it feels really good as well. But that brings me to the first choke point, or the first main reason of why I'm deciding to go Zoom based. As I'm sure you could have guessed by now, that reason is guest accessibility. Yes, when you live in Washington, D.C. like me, and you're not a really big poppin' podcast like Joe Rogan or like Impulsive, where you can literally pay to have people fly into your studio and pay for the hotel and get them on the show, and you have a lot of clout that pulls people in, or even the fact that they're based in LA, it gives them access to a wider range of people who have a bigger network and a bigger sort of following themselves, which for the podcast game, which I'm sure you could put this two and two together, is the more important, the more clout fed guests you have. It sounds so bad, but the more important your guests are, the more views and traction you're going to get on your podcast. That's just how it works. And they have that competitive advantage of being where they are and having pull and power and money. Me being myself in Washington, D.C., I have only been able to talk to people around me. I've only been able to talk to local artists and creatives and people who might just kind of slip through town. And I'm really limited to that. And not that there's anything wrong with that. These people are full of amazing stories, and they hustle just as hard as anywhere else in the world. But the problem is that it keeps me restrained in DC. And for a random person to see that on YouTube or somewhere else, you can't really connect with it. So you're really rolling the dice. But by going Zoom based, now I can access anyone, anywhere in the world. So a cool photographer who has 20K on Instagram, not that it matters, but if your work is really good, you'll have followers. But that cool photographer in London, like Seb Xavier, who I just talked to, we just had an amazing Zoom call interview. And, I would never have been able to do that talking to some local people. And because he has this really great built-in following, it helps bring eyes and traction to my podcast. And that alone is a big enough reason. Now, the downside of that is I don't have the in-person feeling. I can't have a drink with them. I can't sort of, vibe off them and smell them. Not that I'm smelling them, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, energy presence, or just the presence of someone is different when you're in person. And I can't do that, which I guess is a downside. But the upside, even just this far, largely outweighs the fact that we have to be there in person. And then a side sort of advantage of this is the fact that I don't have to set up. Going into my buddy Amir's studio, OMDC, I'd have to get there an hour early, set up, hope I didn't forget anything, have them come in and then take it all down and then drive back home. Like, it literally took up my entire day. But now I can just set up here in my new place and, look a little more presentable maybe and have some good lighting, and it's just as good. And if anything, they're more comfortable because they're not surrounded by all these big lights, and I'm just me chilling. And so, that alone for me is a big reason why. But there's a couple more reasons that I think really need to be discussed. Can I just say that I love having like a little mini island? I don't know why, I just love standing and working here. But anyways, that's not the point. That's not the point. Okay, so the second big reason why I love the Zoom platform is because, and why I'm using it exclusively, is because it's an artist and creatives based podcast. And if you ever watched bigger podcasts like Joe Rogan or Impulsive, they can pull things up on a screen and directly reference them. Now, I'm miles away from that, but talking to artists and creatives, we're talking about their work. We're talking about things they've done. And I've always felt like I wanted to bring up an example of their work, or bring up something that they've done, or bring up something and be able to directly talk about it. Because thinking about a photograph or just referencing it, and especially for the audience if they're watching, it makes no sense to them. And even for the artist, it's hard to recall the details of a photograph. But in some of my recent interviews where I'm talking to these awesome photographers with super inspiring work, via Zoom, I can just pull it up on the screen. I can zoom in on it and we can both look at it. The audience can look at it and we can directly talk about these pieces. And things might come to us just during that. And so that alone has been so rewarding and just so much more fun and enjoyable to do. Like if I'm gonna talk to Picasso, I wanna be like, yo, dude, like, tell me about this picture. I love this picture. Like, why did you do this? Why did you do this color? Why did you do this stroke? Like, these are the questions that people want to know about these artists. And before I couldn't do that, and now I totally can. And I'm just in love with that feeling, and I'm gonna keep flexing on that and keep doing it in different things. So, God, Zoom-based gods, right? Who would have thought that Corona? And yeah, so that's my second big reason why I am going Zoom-based. But there's one last reason that I think is really important, especially for people who have podcasts out there and are not sure how the Zoom platform works, how anything works. So let's do that one, but let's talk about it outside on my fire escape, my new studio. All right, let me just show you guys just how cool this fire escape is anyways. Just real quick, just let me flex a little bit. Check this out. So I'm high up on the 4th floor. This is the edge, which still scares the bejesus out of me, but I'm kind of used to it now. And look at this view. Jesus. How sick is this? The bright side is that no one can see me naked from inside my place. And then here's a fire escape where I will be doing many photo shoots. So yeah, my little coffee seat in the morning right there. All right, let's get to the main point though. Okay, and the last big reasons why I'm going Zoom-based, going total 2020 podcast, is because, well, I mentioned it earlier, but the time saving is so huge. I get a whole half day back, almost a full day back. And then on top of that, the features, which is probably the most important part, is the features in Zoom are super powerful. So besides the screen sharing and the fact that we can all look at the same photo and talk about it, is the fact that the way Zoom records is that it actually splits the audio. So I have a private audio track for them and a private audio track for me, which means I can make it still sound pretty good using my audio engineering skills that I went to school for. Surprise, surprise, I don't think you guys knew that. And it's HD, it's anywhere. Like, it's a really powerful platform that's surprisingly free. I don't know why they do that. So Zoom, also, you want to sponsor your boy, like, let's go. I'm over here big upping you guys. So yeah, that's really all the reasons I have for going Zoom-based. You guys might not know this, but Joe Rogan's podcast actually started off as a Skype-based podcast. Yeah, I mean, before he was Joe Rogan, the god of podcasting, he was just a comedian trying to make it who did jiu-jitsu a lot, and he would just do all Skype podcasts, and then eventually he built a studio and had people come into the studio. But we'll get there, guys. We'll get there. But until then, this is just what it's going to have to be. And I just wanted to say thank you guys for all of your support on the podcast. The subscriber growth has been so insane. Like, I'm gaining like 10 to 20 subs a day, which is unheard of for me in this channel. I've been doing this shit for like 3 years, and so it feels really good to get some gratification, because that means more people are seeing this stuff. And I have a feeling that as I have more guests on that are from across the world with bigger audiences, like I said, that things will just kind of get more exponential. And yeah, can't wait to start doing the events again when the corona in here in DC is still over. We're still on phase 1. Phase 2 is like in 2 weeks, and we can start doing more art shows. Oh, I'm excited for that too. All right, guys, that's it. That's the angle. Peace. No, but see ya. I'm gonna go back in this window and do some more clips. I got a clips channel. That's cool too. You're all gonna check that out. Whatever. Done plugging. Goodbye. I know this is just for the video. Oh, fuck. That was extra. That was really extra just to check my DMs. Oh, fuck. Gotta freaking stretch before I do that move.